This video covers creating a Linux virtual machine using the VirtualBox virtual machine software. So I'm going to start. I've already downloaded VirtualBox, and I'm going to start by going to my downloads folder, and I'm going to start the program. I'm going to take the defaults that are set here. Take the defaults that are here, click next. Okay, this warning that we're getting right here indicates that it's going to shut down my internet connection temporarily while the installation is going on. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, and I'm going to click on install. Please excuse the noise in the background. I have new Basset Hound puppies, and I'm working on this at home, and I can't control them right now. Okay, this first warning we get here, it asks, do you want to install device software? And it's a universal serial bus adapter for VirtualBox. And what that does is it allows the virtual machine access to the universal serial bus on the computer. I'm going to say install. Now, the next warning I'm going to get is about network adapters. A virtual network adapter is created so that when we're running Linux inside the virtual machine, it can still access the internet just like Windows can. So I'm going to click install on that. The last thing I've got is Oracle Corporation Network Services, and I'm going to install that also. And network adapters, I'm going to accept that too. Okay. Now we have finished the installation, and I'm going to click on Finish. When it opens up, it's going to ask us if we want to add some software that is not open source. Let me pause this for just a second here. Sorry, there was a bit of a glitch there. I wanted to install VirtualBox extensions, but I haven't downloaded them yet. I'm going to go ahead and do this without downloading them. The extensions allow you to have a little extra control, but they're not open source software like VirtualBox is. So VirtualBox itself is open source software, which is free to use, distribute, and everything else. But the extensions are Oracle proprietary products. And I had to let puppies out. So I'm back now. We've got this VirtualBox installed on the computer, and now what we have to do is install a Linux operating system on it. I've already downloaded one of the Linux ISO files, and you can get them on any of the Linux sites. If you use the link I gave you, the distro watch, you can pick your distribution, it'll take you to the site, and you'll find download instructions. Right now I'm going to use a Linux Mint ISO that I have burnt to a DVD, and it's sitting in my computer already. And that's the way you'll do it. You'll download the ISO and then you'll burn it to a DVD. Okay, I'm going to create a machine. I'm going to click on New. I'm going to type Linux Mint in here. And it automatically picks up that it's Linux, and that is the correct version, and this is a 64-bit version I'm installing. So I'm going to click Next. Okay, it says the recommended memory size is 256 megabytes. On this machine that I'm using, I have 8 gigabytes of memory on there, so I'm going to go ahead and run this up to 1 gigabyte, 1024 megabytes, same. Okay, I'm going to click Next. I'm going to create a virtual hard drive, and I'm going to accept the default that it's going to be a VirtualBox disk image. There's some other ones here that work with other virtual machines, but our virtual machine software, but I'm going to accept the default. Okay, I'm going to let it dynamically allocate. And what that means is that instead of giving me 8 gigabytes all at once, it allows it to grow up to 8 gigabytes. Alright, and I'm going to accept everything that I've got here and click on Create. So now I've got a virtual machine that's been created but it's a virtual machine that doesn't have an operating system installed on it now. At this point, it's just like having a brand new computer with no operating system installed. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to click Start. And we have here now select a startup disk. Well, I do have the disk in the D drive, which is my DVD-ROM drive. So I'm going to click Start. And now you see Linux Mint is starting up. This is the boot process. Now, this install is going to take a bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video from time to time, let the install go, and then when things change or I have to do something, at that point I'll turn it back on. Okay, I'm back starting up again. I've had a pause for a couple of minutes. Most of these Linux distributions, when you write the DVD, it's a live DVD, so you can boot a computer from it and actually run off of the DVD. And that's the process that the install started with. So now this DVD is loaded. It's opening up Linux Mint with nothing installed. It's just strictly on the DVD at this point. And in a second, we're going to start the install process. All right, we have our desktop up. And you'll notice one of the icons here. It says we're in software rendering mode, and it's talking about the actual video display. Cinnamon is the desktop system that's used with Linux Mint. It says Cinnamon is currently running without video hardware acceleration. And that's because the hardware acceleration is being used by the actual system this is running on, which is Windows, and it's not shared with this. It's not a big deal, and some of the versions of Linux that you can download and install use older video systems or windowing systems that don't require those sort of assets. This still works fine, even though this is that we have this where it's not using hardware acceleration. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to double click on this icon for Install Linux Mint. All right, the install process is started, and the first question that I have here is what language I'm going to use. I'm going to accept English as the default and click on Forward. Now we're going to set up the time zone. There's not one in here for Dallas, but there is one for Chicago, and that's the same time zone that we are in. So I'm going to scroll down until I see Chicago. Select that. Click Forward. Okay, keyboard layout, we're going to go ahead and take the default. You can usually recognize the keyboard of the computer you're using. Click Forward. Okay, now this, with a Linux system, we always have this set up where we have a username and a password. So I'm going to put my full name in here. Leave the username as Marshall for me. You can change it on yours if you want, and then I'm going to create a password. Okay, and the host name, you can put the computer's name on the network in here. This one, I'm just going to put Linux Mint. and click forward. Okay, it says my host name's got to be all in lowercase, and I should have realized that. I'll go back and change that. Click forward. All right, now it's setting up the hard drive. If you were installing this directly on a computer where it was going to be the main operating system on it, it would usually take over the whole hard disk. But in this case, this is that hard disk that we created for the virtual machine. So we're going to accept that and click forward. Okay, it says no partition table is found on the hard drive. Do you want the installer to create a set of partitions for you? And we're going to go ahead and take yes here. And what this is doing is this is creating the Linux file system or mounting points for the Linux file system on the virtual hard drive. Okay, and it shows us what we've set up. In Linux, we have the file system here. We've got it all in one partition, and it's an ext4 type file system. All the mount points in it are going to be under this one. Now, this swap thing in Linux, unlike Windows, in Windows we call this virtual memory, but in Linux we call it a swap area. And whenever we are using multiple programs at the same time, and we might actually fill up all of memory, this allows us to swap the memory partition or pages, whatever you want to call it, for one program out onto a place on the hard drive until that program is active again. So I'm going to go ahead and click forward and accept it. It says please select a root partition. So what I'm going to do here is mount point for this one. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say assign to, and that slash right there means root. That's the bottom of the file system or the top of the file system, however you want to look at it. So I'm going to do that, and then when I click forward, it'll allow me to go ahead and get this going. Okay, now we're going to work with the bootloader, excuse me, and grub is a bootloader that we use, and I think that stands for Grand Unified Bootloader. So I'm going to click forward, and this is giving us a summary of everything we've set up. I'm going to go ahead and click install. Now I'm going to pause the video because it's going to take a while for this stuff to install. While it's going on, you'll see little messages here about Linux Mint, or if you're doing one of the other files, one of the other distributions, you'll see messages about it. I'm going to pause this though. Okay, I've been paused on the video creation software for about 15 or 20 minutes now. The installation is now complete, and you'll notice that there is a text box there that says the installation is now complete. Do you want to restart the computer to use the new system? And I'm going to go ahead and at this point click yes. And it takes a little bit of time because things are still running off the DVD, which is a whole lot slower than running off your hard drive. Okay, the installation is complete, and we're going to get an option here that's probably going to ask us if we want to allow us to remove the DVD. Close these boxes. It says it's restarting the system now. Maybe we're not going to get the option on this one to remove the DVD. Most of these Linux installation DVDs, depending on whatever the distribution is, most of them have the option or actually tell you that you need to remove the DVD after the install. And this one's doing the same thing. Please remove the disk. So I'm doing that right now. And I'm going to press enter to continue. And so here we have our start menu for the loader, and I'm going to accept the default. And I'm going to close all these little boxes that are telling me about mouse and pointer integration. So now the actual operating system is starting up. We see the login screen. And now I can put my password in there. And the Linux virtual machine is starting up. Alright, we've still got this warning about the software rendering mode. I'm not going to worry too much about that. We've got a welcome screen here that lets us get some information about how to use the system. I'm going to close this. And when you're working along with the instructional videos, probably most of the stuff you're going to want to use this virtual machine for is going to be using the console interface or the command line. Now, in Linux Mint, we actually have a terminal down here, an icon for it. We can just click on it and start it up, or we can find it in the menus. So if I look at menus and let's scroll down here, let's see what would be under administration maybe. Yes, there's terminal. So if I click on that, I can start up a terminal session, and now I can try out using any of the command line stuff that we're picking up from the videos. Another thing I want to show you here, all Linux distributions are the same on this. It's not quite like Windows. In Windows you have automatic updates that run. Well, in Linux, the updates are automatically scanned, and then the system's going to let you know there are updates available. In Linux Mint, that's what this little icon is right here. If I click on that, it's going to ask me for my password. Now, Linux Mint uses the sudo system, and what that means is you automatically can elevate your credentials to be the root user if you insert your password. And that's what I had to do here. I had to shift to be the root user so that I can actually process updates and install them on the system. So this is telling me that I've got a Mint update, and if I click on install updates, it's going to install the software. Now this is probably going to take a while. First, it updated information about the group of packages. This is a kind of a special version of Mint, and it uses Debian software in it. So it's coming from the Debian distribution. And the way that it updates is it doesn't update on a case-by-case basis. It updates in groups of packages. So now if I click here to install updates, it's going to download them and do the installation. Now this is going to take quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this again, and I'll start back up after the updates get downloaded. Okay, I've got it back again. It took a few minutes for the updates to download and to install, but that process is over with now. I'm going to do an orderly shutdown on this Linux virtual machine. So I'm going to come down here and click on the menu button, and I'm going to select this icon right here, and I'm going to click shutdown. So now we've got our install completed. It's been updated, and the machine is shutting down. In a few seconds, we'll just see the intro screen for the VirtualBox program. Okay, we're back to, we've got it powered off now, and now our software is actually installed. So not only, the first step was just creating this place for the operating system to reside, and then we installed the operating system inside it. From now on, whenever I want to start up Linux Mint, all I'll do is right-click here, click Start, and I'm just going to keep closing out these messages I get. Okay, I'm going to take the default, hit Enter. And we go through the startup process. And now I can log in to my virtual machine. Alright, and if you don't want to look at this every time, if you were to use Linux Mint, you can uncheck the show this as startup. It won't show up anymore. So I'm not putting a plug in for Linux Mint here. Whatever distribution that you want to use, the process of doing this is going to be similar. Again, I apologize for the quality of the video, but hopefully it will be helpful for you in getting a virtual machine set up.